Hello, thank you all for
Hello.
joining in SpeakEasy on such a horrible evening with the howling gale and the snow and
Pouring rain.
the pouring
Thunder,
rain
right?
out there. Yeah, so
Mm.
yeah, hope everybody's all right. And despite the easing of some of the lockdown stuff, things are still going, okay. If we do the usual thing of if we're not reading, if we can mute our microphones, that would be great. And if you wanted to unmute to applaud or just do the sign language of waving, we'll take that as well. But obviously, unmute if you are reading. that would be cool. Well, good to see you all, and yeah, we're past the longest day. I mean, nearly the end of June. Where's the time gone? It's astonishing, really. Hopefully, lockdown is easing, and hopefully we've got the hang of this social distancing malarkey. One of the projects that I was working on recently was Unity Festival. SpeakEasy's been part of the Unity Festival in Carlisle for the last few years, and the last couple of years they've been doing one down in Kendal, and it's celebrating diversity and just trying to encourage a sense of community and things like that. And I got roped into doing a writing workshop, and all the things this year were held on Zoom. So it was a bit of an experiment, really, to see if the technology would work. So yeah, and it did. I think next year they threw it together in only a couple of months, so I think they try and get a few more people along next year, but they can make it work. So hopefully they won't need to do it next year online, but the option's there. So that was good. And there was a series of words that the little group came up with in our workshop on Friday last week, and they were on the theme of unity. And the words were together, comrades, connection, hive mind, strength, rising, and one. And we had a little play around with those words to see what we could come up with. So this one is the Unity poem, and it goes like this. Strength of working together, building a connection between one person and our comrades. Sharing through our hive mind enables ideas to start rising and, hopefully, change things for the better. And that's that one. Thank you. And I was out today wondering about dropping off a few SpeakEasy books and things, and I'm going to try and get more of those out to people, I think, over the next couple of weeks now that things are getting a bit back to normal. And I called round to David Simmons, who's obsessed with haikus, and was chatting to him. And funnily enough, haikus was one of the forms that we looked at this Unity Festival as well, and I came up with this one, or these few. Understanding all, we can learn from black and white, our community. Together, comrades, hive mind connection is rising. So much strength in one. And outdoor festival, forced indoors by lockdown crisis. Creativity thrives. And there you are, some haikus about unity. We're all desperately going, is that 17 syllables? I think it's close enough, So, thank you very much. Okay, Becca, have you got, is it some Tony stuff? We'll see, we'll find out.
Yes. I'm going to open with the wonderful, marvellous, brilliant Tony Hendry, who has very kindly given me his poems again to read. So, yes, I've definitely got the correct bits of paper, otherwise things will get confusing. 2 poems by Tony Hendry. For me, he's in the top right, he's over there. Trapped on Gozo. A few years before a storm felled it, like many a bucket list tourist before me, I captured the azure window on camera. One photo stands out. There's my nephew, no tourist but a fighter for Malta's bird life. Tom stands, seeming as confident as ever, under that porous limestone arch on Gozo. Things change. Things are the same. The wind was in from Africa, Joni's line. Warm and ominous, it foretold our storm as we took a path above the curving bay. Small brown birds dashed through scrub, and with Tom as my talking bird book, there was quick growth in my lifetime list. But this was no isle of bliss. Above cliffs, battery-powered piping enticed plovers. Inland, the pop, pop, pop of hunters' guns. We passed a dozen Finch trappers' huts, built of breeze blocks and corrugated iron. Empty this November, but busy in spring. There was a pliant government in Valletta, and turning a blind eye reaped votes. Growls getting closer. Time to turn back. Fat raindrops bounced calf-high off rock. Lightning cracked, so we dived into a hut. Safety before scruples. A poor guest suite, wrappers strewn, and bottles brimming with what looked like iron brew but wasn't. We avoided wires that could spring the net. Listened to mad rain drumming on the roof and smelt electricity in the shattered air. Flash after flash for an hour, dusk near. And the last bus to Victoria was due. Overnight stranding, risk being struck. We chose to go. We pelted for that bus like Butch and Sundance in the final reel, but without the dying. Untrapped at last. Things change and things stay the same. Tom still fights for bird life nearer home. I trap in words now and can't run as fast.
So
That is weird looking. Wow. Second poem by Tony Hendry. The Karma Thing. That's Karma, K-A-R-M-A, a lockdown tale from my backyard. Because it was that year, I had to ferry food and home care stuff to and from the spraying table in my yard. We sterilized bottles of bleach back then. One trip, I trod on a garden snail, Cornu aspersum, crossing paving slabs, slicked at last by hesitant night rain after a long spring drought. Another carapace easily burst. One odyssey dashed amongst so many, and me, a dagger in my gut again, sweeping and binning shards and flesh, and thinking I'll be lucky to come back as a worm, to be split by a future spade, when these slabs are just a stratum buried in the true apocalypse to come. It was easy to think that way back then, yet later, the slabs dried by warm sun, there was a sort of mitigation in the air. Before lockdown, I'd bought new plants, which grew in new planters like bilio. Some were Saxifraga umbrosa, known as London Pride, St. Patrick's cabbage, whimsy, and look up and kiss me. And despite the risk of stung lips, I'd have kissed the bee, collecting nectar from the galaxy of star-shaped petals. First ever bee in my sad backyard. and a better sort of burst from a plant which colonized bomb sites after the Blitz. I thought about risk and luck and grace and where I stood now on the karma thing. Thanks. Thank you, Tony.
That was fantastic. Great stuff. Okay, David Bamford.
Hello, everybody. It's
Hello.
me. This is the most recent poem that I have written here. A little bit of background. We have in our garden in rural Lanercost a cock pheasant. In fact, I think there are several of them because he seems to change size and shape and so on. And I think it was one day last specimen came in. He was huge, enormous, and he brought in with him a very attractive female. And this prompted me to write the following. It's called, strangely enough, Cock Pheasant. Proud striding strutter with measured tread, lord of all surveyed, a roi soleil in burnished copper plumage, you know you're beautiful and proud. Your head of racing green, those scarlet wattles, snow white collar which no cleric ever equaled, that tail as long as monarch's train. By God, you're handsome, and you know it. You come to feed when other birds have gone, and peck their leavings from the lawn. Oh, so slight of step and strut, scarce deigning to set foot to ground, thrusting forward, pecking, as if to eat is dignity. Today you brought a dam, brown-feathered, dappled, and discreet. Show her off? Or was it to show off to her? Her modest brownness cast your colours in relief, made you look resplendent, an emperor of pheasanthood. That's it.
Fantastic.
Did you hear me? I have no reaction.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah, it came across pretty well. Yeah. Do you have another one, or?
I do. Yeah, I have another one.
Okay.
This is a poem. I write very little poetry that rhymes, but I'm fascinated by acrostic because acrostics, well, for me at any rate, they focus the mind. And this is an acrostic on self-isolation. Separated, all passengers in the same vessel, everyone together, yet alone. Lives upturned, disrupted, forced into an unknown vortex, imposed upon us by society, fragmented by necessity of keeping distance from each other, letting live as we are let and left alone to live, we hope, or in worst case, to sicken or even die. No one knows how or when this ends. Bit gloomy, but it's a gloomy time. There we are. That's two.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Claire, you're up.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Oh, okay. Wonderful. So I like to bake quite a lot, and I bake with my housemate. I mostly bake for my housemate, especially these days. And sometimes it goes really well, and then sometimes it really doesn't. And I wrote a recipe, and if you like it, feel free to take this recipe to use for yourself as well. Broke Person's Guide to Butter. Melt stalk. Pour it proudly into the measuring cup which you bought for yourself, because to be a baker means having the right appliances to fit the part. Realize that when the recipe called for butter, they did mean actual butter, not the stalk margarine that you bought. Watch in horror as what's left of your butter sits defiantly on top of a tall layer of gooey water. Laugh and throw it all back into the pan. Maybe if you burn it some more, it'll mix together, right? That's how physics works. Proceed to scoop out the liquidized butter, you're still calling it that, out of the measuring cup. Not one to admit defeat to vegetable fat, proceed to pour it into the cookie mixture, but at the last minute add some actual real butter on top, just to be sure. There. Fixed it. Use the mixer, another appliance which does a job and also represents the kind of life you want to lead, and attempt to squish all your final ingredients together. Okay, maybe that really was the wrong coffee grounds to add to cookie dough, but you don't have actual espresso ground, and your housemate who the cookies are for liked this mixture even more than usual, and now wants to add the same coffee ground to their morning oats to replace mixing it with boiling water in a cup. You both deserve these awful cookies. I mean, great cookies, keep going. There are no plain chocolate bars or cooking chocolate in the shop, so you buy a bunch of Freddos and chop them up. There's something dark in it, like a lobotomy of a symbol of your childhood, something so innocent and pure and, no, I changed my mind, not the Freddos! It's too late for the Freddo frogs. Recipes by bakers and that girl on TikTok, we know you downloaded the app and there's nothing to be ashamed of, say that if you put cookie dough in the fridge for 24 to 36 hours, opinions differ, it enhances the flavour. The housemate takes some convincing, as eating leftover cookie dough is their favourite thing. Compromise. Some dough goes in the oven and some goes in the fridge, a secondary experiment to your melting pot of ingredients. Appreciate the science that actually goes into baking. Forget to set a timer on your phone for the first 5 minutes that they're in there, but it doesn't matter because the oven is awful anyway, so just blame everything on that if there are any discrepancies in the final product. Forget to take your phone off silent, so you miss the timer you set anyway. Once you finally remember about your cookie crimes, run to the oven and observe your tray of baked goods. Well, they look like chocolate chip cookies and that's good enough for you. The ceremony of breaking the first cookie. Respect it. Take time over it. Instagram it. Edit the photo if the dough colour doesn't look appetizing enough. Take your first bite. Spit it out. That's it. Thank you.
So don't try that at home.
Do we not get to taste the cookies?
I can send you the recipe if you like. You can try it at home.
Oh no.
Okay. You got another one, Claire, or is that okay? We'll move on. Susan, you got about 3 minutes. So.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I've put my headphones in because we have a rather shouty neighbour who is shouting lots. So hopefully you won't hear them because I've got the headphones in. Okay. I've got a poem and then 2 haiku, if that's okay. Is that okay? Yeah. The poem. Thrown about in crushing water, turmoil in the lake, as our little gusts pick up white horses, metal tasting. It is clear and green, with shive light. Nasal cavities scorching as I inadvertently inhale. But I have the luxury of pausing. Warmth is my face, of intermittent sunlight, and that strength of a swimmer's body, and the energy not yet spent. I am not fleeing for my life. I am enhancing my life. I am lucky to be in this water, not desperate for my freedom. This is my freedom. I emerge from the choppy lake, exhilarated, excited, with cake and chat, and I know I am so very fortunate. I had the choice to cross that small water, enhancing my life, not fighting for it. That's that one.
You went a little bit robot. I don't know if you're
Oh, God.
too close to the device or what.
I don't know what it is. I think it's just a very old machine or something.
Okay.
Hang on. I've got two haiku. So this is Kingmore Woods, Oak Trees. Nodding with raindrops, birch's slender arms surround oak trunks, age-grazed bark. That's that one. And apples. Goddess sign inside, cradling next year's hopefulness. Tough skin hides soft flesh. That's me. Less than a minute.
That was good. And no robot voice, so that was good. Nothing against
Hooray!
robots. But robots are quite cool, you know.
Yeah, what are you going to get as robots?
Nothing.
Susan, I've been meaning to say for ages, that heart thing behind you is so cool. I'm guessing it is like a permanent balloon.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Susan, I was in Kingsmore Wood today.
Who's saying that?
Chris Reed.
Oh, hello. I wasn't. I was at work.
I go, because I work near there and I walk a person every day. I work a disabled guy in a wheelchair, and we always go to Kingsmore Woods. And the oak trees are just astonishing. I totally agree with you.
There's a circle, and nearly every oak tree is being hugged by a birch tree, I think it is. There's these slender birch trees hugging these aged, crusty old oak trees, and I thought, yeah, just like life. I can't get over that Becca thought it was a balloon, a permanent balloon, the luxury, the decadence of having a permanent balloon.
I don't know why I called it a permanent balloon instead of just like wall art or sculpture.
Permanent balloon.
But a permanent balloon,
that looks like a balloon. Not like you had a magic balloon that always remained inflated with a little bit of helium to keep it at that height.
Yeah, that's such a sybaritic thing to do. Oh, this is my permanent balloon.
Yeah. I like that, actually. That phrase is just getting better and better. Permanent balloon.
Have a person come and blow it up every week, you know.
It's the only reason to have kids, right?
It is a person that comes in to do it. Doesn't everyone have that?
Caramel Wacko by Aldi. Actually better.
Yeah. I know, we used to have wackos. They're very good.
We've started sampling all of the like shops' own chocolate bars. So on the theme of Kit Kats, there's never been a real Kit Kat in this house. We've had Choco Breaks, Trocky Fingers, Snappy Fingers, Take a Breaks.
Take a break for the back.
Take a break.
Aldi things are great. The Titan, the racer
Tesco,
bars.
Aldi, Lidl, and Asda.
Which would you recommend is the best for store chocolate?
That's true. Yeah.
Did you say Take a Break?
Take a break.
Take a break.
Co-op does fair trade, so it's very tricky because obviously I like the fair trade chocolate, but Aldi's across the road, so what are you going to do?
Exactly, yeah. I've discovered that Asda's puffin bars, so not a penguin but a puffin, they're so much
They're
better.
really nice.
Loads of filling, really, really good. Yeah, they're even better than Aldi's seals.
I didn't know that Aldi had a version. That's cool.
Oh yeah, everyone has their own semi-aquatic chocolate animal.
Philip, was it you that pointed out that Aldi's Titan, Racer and Jive, there was a riff on Mars, Snickers and
right, yeah.
Love the Titan bar.
Twix is like the twist, so we've got Jive. Racer was obviously Marathon, and Titan, Mars. That was Philip that spotted that one, not me.
Oh my god, I never actually made the connection between the names.
I know!
Brilliant.
That is me thinking outside the box there.
Yeah, I'm up and thinking
Sour cherry and
Sour cherry and chili chocolate.
Sounds intriguing.
I had a can of Pimm's today, which was a a surprise late birthday present, which I was very pleased by.
Lovely.
We all want that now.
I know, I'm getting my strawberries out of it.
It is Pim's weather now.
It is.
Thank goodness.
Shall we crack on? It's Kelly next.
Yeah. Okay. I have to explain a little bit about this one, and it's a bit serious. It's about a Kurdish poet who has been imprisoned in Turkey for 26 years. He was arrested when he was a 22-year-old geography student on bogus charges, and I'm actually part of a campaign now to try and get him freed. And in February, I went down to London to the Poetry Cafe, and there was a tribute evening for him. And afterwards, we were asked to send him postcards and letters and things. And more recently, we were asked to write about him. So this is a poem I've written. He's called Ilhan Chomak, and I will put some links on the SpeakEasy Facebook page so to explain more about him. But this is just a brief poem I've written addressed to him. To Ilhan, 26 years you've been waiting at the bottom of your dark well, writing poems that shine like stars. In February 2020, we sat in London listening to your words, watching a film about you. People read tributes, your cousins sang. Your friend Erkut performed an incantation, draped in a sheet like a strange bird. He lent us his wings, flew us 3,000 kilometers to Silivri, Istanbul. I've never met you, but that night I felt the distance shrink, as if I could stroke your cheek. That's it. Thank you. And a more cheerful one now. This is just about one of my favourite walks, and I wrote it in April. It's written in a form called Hanaku, I think. I found out about it in National Poetry Writing Month. And each stanza has, the first line is one word, and the second line is 2 words, and the third line is 3 words. So it's written in that form. Walking on Maryport Sea Brows, April 2020. Down thin Lonning my steps lead, up the track between the fields. Curious lambs stare through the fence. Along the cliff top, seagulls wheel, dip. Seen from above, the Solway shines. Salty air mixes with new grass. Bluebells cover slopes like a mist. Beside the prom, waves lap gently. Hawthorn leaves unfurl on spindly branches. Gorse blossoms into tiny yellow flames. Spring unwraps itself like a gift. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, great stuff. Julie.
Okay, this one's called Alive. Breathe in, breathe out. An endless cycle, but not all equal. The runner pants, his ribcage rising and falling to gain maximum input for maximum aerobic output. Even then, he feels cramps of lactic acid in the gastrocnemius. That's the calf muscle. The newborn doesn't think. She naturally takes breath after breath. Sometimes it's such a tiny moment, mum leans close, to feel her minute breath, exhalation. Then she smiles with relief. He snores. 2:30 a.m. I can't sleep. Thankful. Not always, but then again, he's alive. It's when I neither hear snores nor soft breaths I worry. I have been known to touch or prod, I've lost myself, to make sure. Then I saw the heavy laboured breathing of my brother-in-law, oxygen at 100%, and knew he wouldn't last much longer. It hurts to see such labour, someone I love struggling so. Me? Oh yes, I breathe. Diaphragmatically when singing, puffing more uphill now than in my 20s. Then there was a year of funny breaths, a sudden involuntary intake in 3 stages, followed by a deep exhalation, and back to normal. I don't go potholing. I might need to hold my breath. What if I can't? Then I wouldn't be, what do you say, alive. I lost it. Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Can I do this one?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I've got another one if that's okay. It's called Terms. What do you think of when you hear terms? A period of weeks, biology, a list of germs, a series of things to which you are bound. They say they are kosher, completely sound. Yet this is not what I'm on about. It's something else I want to shout. In the Northeast, they call you pet, but isn't that something you take to a vet? Further north, a woman is hen. Why? Do I strut and peck about them? Nearer to us, they call a man marrow. Does he go round wheeling a barrow? I came to Carlisle and heard the word bait. I saw boxes of worms that people ate. Where I come from, we call people duck, and that's a word that rhymes with muck. Here in Carlisle, they have good crack. Are they all druggies? I want to go back. Okay, Paul's going to do one now.
Right, okay then. I was going to do a poem about a rose garden, but Becca mentioned London Pride, and a really good poem about London Pride. It was written during the war, and it's all about how in the spirit of the wartime spirit in London sort of persevered. London Pride has been handed down to us. London Pride is a flower that's free. London Pride means our own dear town to us, and our pride it will be. Woe, Liza, see the Costa barrows, vegetable marrows on the fruit pile high. Woe, Liza, little London sparrows, Covent Garden Market where the costas cry. Cockney feet mark the beat of history. Every street pins a memory down. Nothing ever can quite replace the grace of London town. There's a little city flower, every spring unfailing, growing in the crevices by some London railing. Though it has a Latin name, in town and countryside, we in England call it London Pride. London Pride has been handed down to us. London Pride is a flower that's free. London Pride means our own dear town to us, and our pride it forever will be. Hey lady, when the day is dawning, see the policeman yawning on his lonely beat. Gay lady, Mayfair in the morning, hear your footsteps echo in the empty street. Early rain and the pavements glistening, all Park Lane in a shimmering gown. Nothing ever could break or harm the charm of London town.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really great. Thank you very much. And Jeanette, it's you.
Right, I've got 2 to run by you, if that's all right, because they seem to have been in my draft poetry on my old iPad for ages. I play about with them, and I thought if I have a go at reading them out, it might help me decide whether it's or not. The first one, it was when I was thinking about how, you know, we get our kids phones and they're great and we want them to fit in with other kids, but I think sometimes they rob childhood a little bit. So this one's called Saved by a Parker. The best of things became the worst of things. He hid behind glass, a curtain, a screen. They lured him, then hit him with posts. The strangest of strangers, friends who weren't friends. He hid behind glass, his curtain, his screen. They kept him indoors as they stayed within glass, peering through curtains, invading his screen. He grew tired of followers, causing status to be pressed, so one day depressed his home button. He looked up past the glass, peered through his curtain, broke free from the screen. Then under his throat he fastened his coat, which prepared him to fly, a cape to escape, and became the keeper of his own timeline. So that's that one. The next one, I found out about the face on the resuscitation dolls, the St. John's ambulance, you know, for the first aid, that it had actually been modelled on a girl that had been found drowned in the Seine. And once I knew that, I can't help but, totally intrigued by this face and who she was and what happened to her. So here we go. Haunted yet calm, I look upon your face, haunting yet calm. Entranced, transfixed, intriguing, beguiling, your face half smiling. Entranced, transfixed, intrigued by your story. As your ears half filled with water lapping, were your lashes sleeping, softly sleeping, or were pillowed cheeks still soaked, soaking, tears lapping? Were you already arrested, hunted or haunted? Did those who found you find you intriguing, beguiling, yet melancholy, can't get the word out, or calm? Did weight press heavy, heavy on your chest? In collapsing calm and coldness, were you drowning, drowned imaginings? A short life lost, a lost life lost, and yet you saved so many, and saviours learn to breathe back life from your half smile from the Seine. And that's me. Thank you.
Wow, that was great.
Thank you.
Cool. Right. Oh, we're back to me. And this one's this is based on an incident that happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Blue-Eyed Crow. Juvenile crow with the bluest of eyes, like two little rings of clear summer skies, tapping on my window, peering, seeking, seemingly in the know. I noticed around its leg was wound threads of moss and twine were bound. This forlorn young corvid, the colour of jet, trying to encourage any help it could get. And so, Animal Rescue Squad flies into action to hold the feather-brained youngster quite still, no reaction. Carefully, I survey this tangle around its slender coal limb, and slowly and surely, the removal of the fibres I begin. It appeared to have put its foot through the crow's nest. The little raven flinches twice, but I'm doing my best. After a few minutes, all the twisted matter is gone. It's free, released. The blue-eyed crow takes its leave of me and flies off into the evening air without a worry or care. But I wonder if it'll remember, for I now know how I came to the aid of the blue-eyed crow. And that's that. Thank you very much. this is where we would have our little interval. But we might as well carry on if that's all okay with everybody. Last June last year was the SpeakEasy, which is the last one we did in Fox's Cafe, and it was a wonderful send-off. And for some reason I was wearing a dinner jacket and bow tie, and it was swelteringly warm. But that was good. And these words sort of popped into my head after the event, and it's called "Wisdom is only a matter of perspective," and it goes something like this. A babble of consciousness waxed and waned, oblique, opaque, obscured, left unexplained. Somehow timeless, and at once only of that instant. Voices sharing, belonging to youth, elders, the wise and the foolish. Wisdom is only a matter of perspective, and perspective dependent upon your point of view. Opinion, conjecture, sporadic thought, impromptu lecture. Knowledge inferred, meaning deciphered, riddles unpicked and enigmas revealed. Stories of truth and of fiction, a haven for the sing-song choirs of one or more. A bond between giver and receiver. Secret meaning told from one to another, for you and you alone. Written in time, in a language without words, a message etched in our hearts, which rages through capillaries, zaps along each synapse, woven between your double helix. Alphabet soup of what ifs, a scramble of Scrabble tiles, infinite symbols of value. The shimmering interconnectedness of our words led them to most carefully lift the bicycles from the walls, and once out in the honey glow of high summer, rode away into the world of adventure, through expression of the self, into the pursuit of dreams. There you go. I don't really know what it means, but there you are.
I really like the taking the bikes off the walls and riding away.
Oh, thank you very much.
Not that the rest of it was shit or anything, but
yeah.
Really good image.
Thank you. I spoke to our friend Stephen Hymers the other day on the phone, and he's doing okay. He's been going a bit loopy because the even more loopy with the lockdown. But he's been busying himself writing some of his wacky stories and things. And he said, "Tell everybody I've got this new one I'm working on." And I thought, oh, good. So this is a 1950s B-movie that he's working on. It's sort of a sci-fi horror thing in his own unique style, and it's apparently he's working on it. It's going to be a 3-page epic, and it's called "It Came from the Devil's Void." And you've got to say it like that. And apparently, it's the exploits of the team working on the top secret Tolliver Mark III rocket program. I don't know where he gets his ideas from. And it's led by Professor Susan Cartwright-Smith and her team, which includes Phil the Movie Hewitson, the laid-back number cruncher, and then there's Becca the Brains Roberts, who's the rocket expert, John Kit Kat Chambers, the computer whiz who likes to take a break, Jean Fireball Hill, Professor Cartwright-Smith's right-hand woman, David Smiler Simmons, Tony Mason, who's a local reporter, and the man from the ministry, Tony Hendry, and of course, Sir Stephen himself as AKA Gil Hooley, who's the Project Dog's Body. And find out what happens when they become alien monster hunters. So in It Came from the Devil's Void. So there's something to look forward to.
How come I'm in charge of that ship?
I don't know. But there we are. Many people have been immortalized in one of his latest unusual stories. So
I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
My battery's running out, so I'm just going in.
Okay, we'll hopefully see you when you're plugged in.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sets us up for Becca's next piece, but
I have to go now, I'm afraid.
Is it tea time?
Yeah. What have you got for tea, Kelly? What have you got for tea?
It's soup again, actually.
Hooray!
Soup isn't tea.
But
Maybe, I think soup is an excellent meal.
Yeah, yeah.
Soup is a starter.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, brilliant. So yeah, as Phil said, this is a year ago Friday actually, since the final Speakeasy at Fox's. And for anyone who remembers the layout of Fox's, there was one wall with a big mirror on. That the entire wall was a collage of musical score and drink posters and old sort of theme night posters from the previous owners, just this massive wall. So Stephen Hymers wrote this piece from sitting beside that wall. So this is The Fox's Daydream Concerto in B flat by S.J.C. Hymas. As I sit here in Fox's, waiting to take my turn to tell yet another tall tale or two, I start staring at a wall that has been covered in sheet music and old-style drink advert posters. The longer I look at this strange mismatch of papers, my mind slowly starts to daydream. As my eyes begin to follow the notes, a strange and haunting tune starts to play somewhere in the back of my mind. I don't know what this tune is called, because the words are, I think, being sung in German, and I can't tell an arpeggio from a cadenza. And I could swear that these posters are taking on a life of their own. Maurice Chevalier is standing next to a large bottle of Grand Marnier. I'm not really sure if he's there for the peep show, or he's going to sing at the open mic, which is going on overhead. While a dour-looking chap who's drinking a large stein full of DAB gives him a very disapproving look. A devil, laughing, is sitting atop a very large bottle of Surtuve liqueur, finds the whole thing a real hoot. You'd better mind the Van Grapp, as a young woman can be seen dancing around a large cognac Esmeralda, while a bald-headed man watches her by candlelight, while lurking behind a bottle of China Moreni. Is it goodbye, Norma Jean, who's gone and lost her bottle of pomaine while she was staying at the Languedoc Monopole, which can be found in the area of Kirsch d'Alsace? This strange little tune is starting to become something of a rum view. But as the tune comes to an end, I may drop into Monmuseau for a quick Cinzano. Or I could join Felix Potter and the chaps for a very large Dewar's Scotch whisky before I have to go. My dream ends just in time, and I find myself back sitting at Fox's. As I get up to do my turn, I take one last quick look at the wall and smile. The Fox's Daydream Concerto in B flat is still playing in my mind. Thank you, Sir Stephen.
Thank you, Becca. That was really, really good. Okay, John, it's you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
First of all, thank you for the invite. That was lovely to see what you do up in Carlisle. Can I just say, I was interested to hear what was said about Penrith and Carlisle, because it's still possible to go for a run around a deserted village here in Norton. Very little. few bikes and so on, but it's pretty. Now this goes back to the very first week in lockdown. It struck me from the start that we were very lucky that we were living in the same household, and so that we could bounce thoughts and worries off each other. We know a lot of people who live alone, and I thought this was going to go on for a long time. So I sent this into the parish magazine, hoping to encourage people to keep in touch. Corona, early days. The novelty will fade, will disappear. Let's get this straight. You ain't seen nothing yet. Those quickening, warming feelings that we get when Skyping those we treat as near and dear will grab the center stage. This much is clear. We'll cherish every call. But do not let the folk who are alone slip through the net. No sounding board to josh their rational fear. Do not abuse the privilege we hold. Share thoughts and news and jokes with all we know. Such minutes brush the shadow hours away. A friendly word from you will be as gold. A thoughtful jewel for someone feeling low. And this will bond a mutual human day. One. Now here's another one which is a bit lighter in tone, and it's a true story, and it's brought about by this very hot weather, and it reminded me of a time, and it must have been 1965. We were camping at the bottom of Langdale, and we wanted to climb Scarfell Pike. It was very hot, and so we set off, I think, before 7 in the morning to go up Scarfell Pike. I think we called it Scarfell then. We knew that Angle Tarn was on the way, and it looked very inviting when we got there. Skinny dip, Angle Tarn. We left at muted tent zip, not a sound, and leaving fellow walkers sleeping still, direct our steps towards the looming hill, across the warm and cushioned sheep-cropped ground. Hot and nothing like our daily round. The forecast heat now saps our climbing will. Ahead, we face a toiling Rosset gill. We're breathing hard, but steadfast, Scarfell bound. But now the depths of Angle Tarn entice. We stripped, and with a quiet shout, strode in, the cool, a stifling, laboured summer's day. With nether parts embraced as if by ice. 1 minute later, dressed, a foolish grin, we smiled and went upon our Scarfell way. That's it. The end. Thank you.
Great, John. Thank you very much. Thanks for bearing with us with those technical issues. Over to Richard now.
Hi, everybody. You may see the name Kathy down in the bottom corner there, but that's my wife, so I'm on her iPad, just to avoid confusion. I just finished this poem today, actually. My wife actually had a phone call from her hairdresser saying she's got an appointment. So that was pleasing. And this is called Lockdown. I'm sporting lockdown whiskers, lockdown hair. Do people I meet assume that I don't care? But now we're all zooming, but pay heed to your grooming. Another month of this I couldn't stand. We're living at a distance of 6 feet. When I meet friends, I have to cross the street. And now we're all Skyping, with most of us griping, though I'm hoping this virus I can cheat. It seems soon life may become much sweeter. My clothes and my hair will all get neater. We can go to the clubs, even visit some pubs, and we're only apart by 1 meter. We've been living at risk for a whole season. Approaching too close is almost treason. Wash your hands, wear a mask. Is that too much to ask? With everyone still looking for the reason. Thank you. I've got another one that, if you recall how disorganised government spokesmen seem to be, I wrote one called Clarity, because that's what we need, really. You have to be clear. I'll say it twice. You need to be focused and precise. Confusion won't do, nor being vague. It's an anathema, like the plague. You must be lucid. You should be clear. No double meanings are found in here. You need clarity in all you say. If not, leave it for another day. Like a donkey smells carroty, in dealings we must have parity. I'm not giving you any charity unless you provide me with clarity. That's that. Thank you. I don't know if there's a word called carroty, but I put it into rhyme. So it's what you call a poetic license. Thank you.
I've got a joke that Richard might like.
Oh, right. I like
Remember
that.
it. 2 parrots were sitting on a perch. One of them said to the other, "Can you smell fish?"
Ah. Yeah. It's the way you tell them, yes, definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Susan, 2 fish in a tank. One turns to the other and says, "Do you know how to drive this thing?"
Good.
The other ones are the best, eh?
Yeah, those briefings are finished now, haven't they? Oh, what a shame. I was waiting for the box set as well, you know.
But you can still watch Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesdays. Me and Harry, we get a drink and popcorn and we just sit there and it's amazing. He loves it.
Yeah.
13-year-old, he absolutely loves it.
You laugh? Yes.
It's like a wrestling. It's like SmackDowns, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Keir Starmer just being very sensible and Boris just going,
Oh,
what?
I've taken to calling him Sheer Charmer now.
Very good.
Bit of a silver fox.
The funny thing is that everybody knows what they're doing except the government, which is kind of... Everybody else just gets on with it, and they're like...
It's almost as if the previous 3 years were just a practice, a rehearsal for us just coping on our own.
Oh, they thought that was a good way of doing government.
Yeah. It worked in Belgium, I believe. They didn't have a government for about 3 years or something, and seemed to work quite well, so you never know.
Yes, but they're still drawing a wage for not doing anything. They're talking out, and then we don't need them. They can still go into the building, and we can still pretend that they're in charge, you know.
It's just privatising.
They probably will privatise it.
Yeah, privatise it like they privatise everything else.
It's gone satirical all of a sudden.
Yes, we like Prime Minister's spanking time. It's great.
Oh, I didn't know there was an option like that.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, there's an image forming in my brain. I don't want.
You said it though, didn't you?
Random question. Is there going to be another Speakeasy anthology in the works? Is there one, and when? And 4 questions revolving that topic.
That's like a question for Cold You Press. What do we think?
Do we have to go into a different... Do I have to put a hat on or something to be Cold You Press now?
You could go in a side room on Zoom, apparently.
Yeah.
Sorry?
You can go in a side room on Zoom.
Side room?
Cider.
I did that the other day because there's too many of us on the chat, so they split you up.
Yeah. I don't know what this means. I'm sure there could be an anthology. Yes, well, the window normally opens in September, doesn't it?
No.
When does it open?
Well, the last one sort of closed in September, but we haven't opened one.
I knew September was involved somewhere.
We haven't opened one yet, Claire, but yeah, potentially there will be a Speakeasy.
Just generally wondering what the crack was. I think I was reading something.
Well, we've still got. We just did the launch event for Speakeasy 4, which is still available.
I have that one. I'm pretty sure.
To people, but with the lockdown, that's not been as easy as
and Poetry for a Purpose as well. We've still, that's still to deliver, isn't it?
Yeah.
You with your stash of books.
Yeah, I got them
all ready. We didn't plan this conversation, but I And here's one I made earlier.
Welcome to my office.
Phil's just a book dealer.
I know. That's what, I made Chris buy one that way.
Your office has got fitting curtains in. I love them.
You need a book. You need a book. I know a man who knows about books.
Yeah. Just carry the books around and just go. You look like you're in need of some poetry.
Well, there's that poetry pharmacy, isn't there, where you go in and have poetry given to you as a medication. You could do that. You could do a cold press poetry pharmacy.
Where is this? Is that a thing?
Hey?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it is a real thing. I think it's like a cafe, but they set it up as like, it's the pharmacy. So you come in. I don't think it's a real pharmacy, but that would be cool.
Oh, is it the one in... It's like the pharmacy in Stanwix Art Gallery, or am I thinking something?
No. I don't think it's in Carlisle. It's somewhere mystical. I don't know where. But yeah, they set up a thing for the poetry pharmacy, and it's like a cafe day, and you go in and you're diagnosed and given appropriate poetry.
That's right. Someplace starless and Bible black, no doubt.
Sorry?
Somewhere starless and Bible black, no doubt.
That's an album by King Crimson.
It is, yeah.
That's the only way that I know that line as well. What's it from?
And a couple of pieces of
prose. Black there. I could imagine going into black books and trying to do something like that and being ejected quite firmly. Get out!
There's a story about John Cooper Clarke who did a poetry session in Dylan Thomas's home, and he finished his set in John Cooper Clarke, Dylan Thomas, and he said at the end of the set, he said, and do not go mental, and with that, a good night.
Solid advice.
Jeanette, are you saying, have you got something from the poetry?
Well, I'm just saying I've got the book there, the poetry pharmacy book.
It's
blended in with
You can't see it.
Oh, wait a minute. I got it there.
Your face. Yeah.
Yay.
Well, that's trippy.
Yeah, so, whatever your mood, there's a poem there. So that's why it's right by the bed. Sort myself out every night.
The one to go to sleep.
I have a book that's a poem for every day of the year. And some of them, just all sorts of poets and all of them. And it's like 366 poems, I think, for leap years.
It's quite anxious that you have to read it. Do you not get kind of anxious if it's coming to the end of the day? I'm not poem, yes, oh my god.
Depends how long they are.
Yeah.
What if you go on holiday? You read them before or after?
You have to take a picture of each page and take it with you.
Yeah.
And if you have an insatiable need for a poem, Phil's your man, because he's the dealer.
Yeah. Poetry dealer.
I think the answer could be yes. We will discuss it and deliver the details forthwith. Very good vague answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get back to the original question.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Not that space, because the curtains are a bit trippy, but yeah.
Okay, Chris, you've got something for us, I think.
Yeah. Oh no, I can't make the screen share go away now. Oh, there it's gone. I have a poem. This will end with a poem, but it's kind of a story about a poem. And the thing I like about SpeakEasy is, obviously, because we can all understand each other, we all use the same words, but I'm interested in the way that everybody uses them in different ways. So it kind of has inspired me to kind of look at different ways of experimenting with words. And this is, I'm going to try and do a screen share. This ends with a poem about a place called Walton Moss, which is near Walton outside Carlisle, and there's a big moss. It's about 2 square miles. It's a raised mire, and it's 10,500 years old. And I'll try and get you an image of it. Here we go. See if this works. Do you get that image? Cool. Can you hear me still? Right. So this is...
I can hear you, yes.
So this is... I'm sure I could make this bigger, but I don't quite know how to. So this is Walton Moss, and it's kind of near where I live, and I went there on an art project to kind of do a walk around a grid square with a GPS and see if I could effectively make a giant mark by kind of walking around GPS. And I've never been there before. It's the most astonishing place. It's 2 square miles and it's basically completely flat. It's a slight dome towards the middle, and it's 10,500 years old, formed at the end of the last ice age. And as far as I can see, apart from a period when it was cut for peats, there's nobody been there. There's no farming been there. And it's just the most. Are you getting different images? Yeah, cool. So these are the kind of the images of it, kind of floating along. So I've been there on a number of occasions doing photography and kind of getting pictures of it, and it's a very atmospheric place. So I decided to do some poetry about it, and I was interested in the idea of how you could, the physicality of poetry. And so I need to find another image. So basically I wrote a poem on glass. Hang on, I'm just going to get you the screen share. I wrote a poem on glass made out of ink from blackberries, which was basically blackberry jam, and painted it on a piece of glass, and then used a squeegee and kind of collected it together, and it looks like blood there. It's all very exciting. Collected it together and put it into some water which I'd collected. So this is water from Walton Moss. Put it into the water. So the poem is now in the water. I'll walk through the process. And then, where else are we? And then I need to find another image. I can see some people laughing at me. That's very good. I poured this poem. So put the water into the poem and took the poem back and poured it into, so this is the poem in the water from Walton Moss, and then I poured it back into Walton Moss at its highest point, and here I am pouring the water, if you can see that. All very strange, with my strange shaky hands and head. And that was it. Now I'll stop doing screen share. And originally I was going to do a poem by called Bogland. And who wrote Bogland? No, it's called Seamus Heaney, sorry. And it was about a bogland, and it was very evocative of the place, because it's an odd place, because the opening line of his poem goes, "We have no prairies to slice the big sun at evening, everywhere that eye can seize to encroaching horizon." And it is like being on a prairie. It is just so flat compared with kind of other places around. But I wanted to do a poem that was a bit more personal to my experience of Walton Moss. So this is the poem. Walton Moss. You are growing but unchanged. You are tracked but trackless. You are drab but bejewelled. You are prairie and summit. You are old but still young. You are open but closed. You are empty but full. You are lake and hill. You are dry but wet. You have outlived us all. You will outlive us all. My shadow will pass and I'll be gone. You will remain. And that's it. That's my kind of poem put into the...
That was amazing. That was fantastic. I like that, writing out the poem and then scooping up the poem and pouring the poem.
Oh, and I've got the...
That was so cool, Chris.
So I did it, and it was such an... So I did it again. So there's a jar. So there's a jar of water with a poem in it, which I just think is quite interesting idea.
Yeah. You couldn't hear me, but I just kept going, wow, like when you were describing it.
If you drank it, you might be more poetic, you know?
Oh, no, exactly, yeah.
More so, yeah.
I could start a poem with the opening line of dysentery or something.
No, if you drank it, it'd be like some superpower and you become super poet or something. And I don't know, go rampaging through the town, poeting everywhere.
Doing poetry everywhere.
And the ink, and to make it, I got I got blackberries and then put them in a pressure cooker and pressure cooked them and then cooked them down. And I realised that when I did it, and it needed to have a certain level of consistency, like paint. So I put sugar in it, and then afterwards, really, I just made jam. Is all I've done. Really.
Yummy.
Sell it and become a poetry dealer.
Yeah, you could actually, couldn't you? Yeah,
Cool
you could have,
Poetry jam. It's a poetry jam.
Hey!
Genius.
Will it spread on the cookies that we've got the recipe for now as well? I wonder.
Good.
Thank you.
Welcome to
I think when we next get together for SpeakEasy, like, food should be bad cookies and good jam.
We're going to bring all the food stuffs that we've mentioned over the weeks. I'll have to bring some Pims then. Curses.
Oh, what a shame. This is good. Welcome.
Can you make it all into a film though, Chris? Because you've got
That's the intention. Yeah. Eventually, it'll turn it into a film. Yeah.
Good.
Ah, the good idea.
Yeah. Welcome, Fernando Smith.
Hello. Hope you're all well. Sorry I'm late.
No, it's all right. We've been keeping the madness going.
Very good. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. Are you up for reading some stuff, Mark, later on?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'll probably slot you in after Alison. Okay. So we're up to Roz is next, please.
Hi. I haven't been doing much. I did, when I can find it, the other day, I Googled what haiku was, because everybody was doing them, and I wasn't entirely sure. But anyway, I found out it was 575. So this is my very first haiku that I did. Oh, it had to be about emotion or nature. So since I'm not good on emotion, I decided I'll do nature. 2 fingers I flick towards the birds who would pick the sorry, read it wrong. 2 fingers I flick towards the birds who would nick the strawberries I pick. And that is the whole of that. Right. I have got one silly one that I wrote, well, was finishing at sort of 7:20, and I'm not sure that's at all finished. Or you can have one I wrote ages ago that I never read because I wasn't too keen on it. Any preference?
Both of them. Both of them.
Both of them. Okay. Let's have this one for some paper. It's called Talking by Numbers. Numbers, abstractions, subtractions, multiples of nothing, can't amount to much. Add a little bit more, learn to type, get a job. Not now, typists equals 0. The sum total of all that effort, thousands of people, thousands of hours, adds up to no work, 0 hours. How do you account for that? Accountants once took a slice, roll of the dice, counters move on a spreadsheet, game-changing software, machines calculate, display your numbers, pass on your data, harvest your data, big data, scares me. Computers talk in numbers, language means nothing, people mean nothing, we are all statistics now. And that's that one. And the other one that I think it's about as finished as it's going to get. It's just called 60 something, and it's following on from the last few moaning poems I've been doing. To my mounting list of things to be mown, I can add the loss of my muscle tone. This deterioration has left me weak, forcing me to accept I'm past my peak. It seems after you've hit the big 6-0, there's only one direction things will go. And even if I move north of Cockermouth, the rest of my body's still heading south. The lack of muscles means there's no support to hold things in place to keep the skin taut. So now it looks baggy, wrinkly and thin, with strange bulges where it can't hold me in. With sagging bits I'd rather not mention, need underwear armed with full suspension. And my belly flippity-floppity goes, is heading steadily towards my toes. So now I can barely imagine that, once my stomach had been rock hard and flat, then I wonder, will I still look like me in the body I have at 70? And I think that's as much as you're getting from me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff. Okay, Kathleen. It's you.
I've got one slightly serious one and one that's more light-hearted, and just have to find the right one. I lived in the Middle East for about 10 years, and although I spoke Arabic reasonably, able to get by, I never learned to write it, and I've always wanted to because it looks so beautiful on the page, Arabic script. And so what do you do? I've been locked down since the beginning of March. I was in quarantine initially. So what do you do? And so I thought, right, time to learn Arabic, to write Arabic. So I'm doing an online course in writing Arabic, and this is a poem about that. This is the Aleph. On screen, she draws an upright. Every letter has 4 forms: isolate, at the beginning, the middle, and the end. In the flat upstairs, a neighbour is learning the guitar, practicing the same 3 chords on repeat. Ba is a boat floating over a rock. And here is the ta. Do you see that it is like a boat with 2 people in it? Arabic is cursive. The letters flow across, curling round the lines, right to left, a boat, 2 dots. My pen follows. Dal, Jim, Sahad, Lam, Kaf. I want to know what happens when we get to the end of the sentence. Upstairs, the guitarist switches tunes, something I might recognise if he could play without stopping for the chord changes. Now we will go for the S sounds, she says, drawing something like a W with a curly tail. She adds 3 dots. It becomes a small animal, making the sound trees make in the wind as it reverses itself across the page. Where you put the dots alters the meaning of the word. I learn how to write son, grandfather, God, but not the word for myself, or how to be stoic in hard times. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't resist when Richard was reading about his hair and his moustache. I've also got a lockdown hair poem. This is called The Feeling of Long Hair, Letting It Down. It hasn't been cut since February, and I miss the swing of a well-trimmed bob, avoid strong winds. At night, there's no sleep with a scrunchie. I dream an octopus is fingering my face. In the shower, I can't wash my shoulders for the spread of it, remove a wig from the plug hole. I watch YouTube on how to cut a fringe. In the mirror, I'm wrong-handed. It hangs slantwise. I practice updos, but can't be bothered, gather careless ends into a band on the top of my head. On the cusp of elegance, I look more serious, unlike the girl in plaits in my school photos. And now there are long hairs clogging the Hoover in my breakfast cereal, but at least my own. When this is over, I'll be shorn again, unless I choose to emulate great-grandmother Francesca, whose hair coiled down to her ankles, and we stood awestruck as she shook out the pins. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's great. Alison, it's you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so yesterday I wrote like a load of poems. I know the first time in ages, so I chose 2 sort of quirky ones tonight. And the first one is Fortune Teller 2020. I'm strolling along the street when my head just drops off and lies like a floppy Halloween mask on the pavement, all weird and deflated, creepy horror movie doll-like. I sneak a sideways squiz up at myself. A tall woman with a crystal ball fishbowl head, milk white, glazed essence of Alison still present, glides by, observing from a distance. And the next one's called COVID Consequences. Elaine passed by the garage, stopped to say hello, was burning to tell me, I got our dead neighbour's fridge freezer put in. My brain did somersaults, searched bewildered archives for some suitable reply. Oh, that's good, was all I could come up with. And I wondered if our old neighbour across the back had left anything in her freezer, chips, a tub of vanilla ice cream, a sliced loaf. And I thought to myself, well, she won't be needing those in the afterlife. Oh, that's great, Elaine. It's just great. It'll come in really handy, won't it? I twittered with feigned enthusiasm. In my mind's eye, seeing a small bag of McCain's defrosting tossed in general waste. So, well, you know, it was, yeah, it happened. That was real. And I didn't know what to say. And lastly, I've just got a very short one. It's got to be a boat one, of course, but still COVID related, so fitting the theme. Antisocial. I pivot 360 degrees, unobstructed, a whole lake of distance. Cara's prow compass points before me as I push-pull blades to turn. A white slow-motion star with long pointed tips and me balanced in the centre. That's it, folks.
Fantastic. Cool. If we can have Fernando Smith, and then it'll be Becca to do her last of about 15 people who've been reading for her.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay. This is football's back on the telly, and I like how you can watch it with or without the sound, and it makes me think maybe we could watch live with or without the sound. So I'm now tempted to turn the mute on and maybe just, but I won't. This song mentions football because it's set in my head at Gig Lane, which was the place where I lived. I lived just off Gig Lane in Bury, the Bury Football Club, who went out of business earlier in the season. And it's where I learned that art wasn't just painting and drawing, and people have their own art, whether it's a garden or watching football or playing or so on. And it's based on a real man who was on the street next to ours when I was growing up, and it's called It Gets Into the Head of the Football Crowd and What People Are Thinking, which was influenced by Wim Wenders' film Wings of Desire. And it's called Camera Pans In. Albert was a secret agent for the forces of artistry. He had a passion for beauty and dance, but he wouldn't have said so. He'd say, all that stuff has nothing to do with a man like me, it's for the rich. And he had his points, and he had his style, and he had a haircut that stood out in a crowd. Albert played football for his local club. A centre-half physique was how the paper described him. A centre-half physique and a striker's flair, and every shot as certain as a penalty. That's Albert. That's Albert. He had 3 children and no one knew who his wife was. And Albert never mentioned her, but the kids were always clean. And he was an artist with the ball. He was just like an artist with the ball. And all the people on the sidelines said, in 47 years, I never saw anything quite like that. It was as if a whirlwind had stormed in and crashed out the back door. And I'll never marry. They're all the same, children at heart. Brains in their pockets, hands on their wallets, and you do better without, she'll never come round, and the weather's taken a turn for the worst. And there goes Albert, quick as a leopard, sly as a fox, strong as an ox, delicate as a mother holding her baby, and she doesn't sleep at night. And the beer was good, the songs were great, and she comes on Thursday, I just can't wait. And the car has paid for itself, really. And I think I must be dreaming, and it's colder than I thought. And this loneliness will kill me soon, and skin is a strange and marvelous thing. And I had to leave my life, I lost my way. And I think I'll eat out tonight, and I know now that I can love her. And will this winter never end as Albert breaks through the gap in the defence and approaches the goalkeeper?
Do you have another one for us, Fernando Smith?
Whoa. All right, then.
All right.
Yeah, I've got Aztec cancer. Well, there's a cheery thing. And it's a real thing. South American pipe music gives you cancer. Stay away from it. You'll find no exotic answer to life, for it only sullies the bells of your balls, lungs, throats, pancreas, or prostate, which is near the arse. And a state you won't want to violate with pipes. You'll curse if you grow a cancer, or worse, two cancers, side by side, hitching rides on your insides. And besides, when you're dead from South American pipe cancer, your mum will sigh, he was too young to die. And that was written in response to buskers who play South American panpipe music, which I abhor.
I've got some panpipes here now, haven't I?
Oh, no. You do me wrong, sir.
No. Cool. Is there any more from Fernando Smith, or are we gonna?
If you want some more, there's more. It's the gift that keeps
yes.
Shall we do one more from Fernando Smith, and then we'll go to Becca, and then I'll.
Okay.
Cool. Because you joined us late, I'll let you do one.
Oh, is that the reward for being
here?
Yeah. Well, that's a world I don't understand. It's like walking into a room and seeing people juggling, and in the back of my head it says, "No data, no data." This is the poem that made me famous. The state of things. The little bird stood transfixed by the sun. St. Francis bent over, scooping the creature in his kind palms. The wind was high, urging the poplars to curve like a reaching feather. 10 minutes later, the bird, perched in a cage, cursed the sun in a fishbone voice, mistaken for delight.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, Becca.
Right. Glad I'm not reading my own stuff following that. Fucking hell. Okay, so we ran out of paper ages ago, and I don't like reading things off my phone. So I always print out poems for this. But we've got this massive stack of old bits of paper that have already been printed on one side. Some of it is like old work stuff. A lot of it is from Owen's writing groups and things like that. So that's one of Owen's old poems with bits of writing on it. And there's, for some reason, our address at the bottom, and it's from 2 houses ago, so that's quite a while. Whenever I printed out Tony's poems, the bits of paper I grabbed, when I flipped them over, I discovered that it is a collection, a sampling of French surrealist poetry with the date 9th of November 2006 written on it. And when I asked Owen, it was from the Carlisle Arts Festival, either the first or second one way back in the day. And this was a workshop he went to hosted by Geraldine Green. Is that right, Geraldine Green?
Yeah.
And so she'd given people a collection of French surrealist poetry. And this one has got a picture of a flying mermaid on it, obviously. I think it says Winged One writes the music beside it. But this poem is called My Siren. It is by Robert Desnos? Desnos, maybe? Desnos? And I just really liked it. My Siren. My siren is blue as the veins where she swims. For the moment, she sleeps on mother of pearl, and on the ocean I create for her, she can visit the magic grottos of preposterous isles. There, some very foolish birds converse with crocodiles who never finish up, and the very foolish birds fly above the blue siren. The crocodiles return to their drink, and the island doesn't come back from where it's placed, where my siren and I have forgotten it. My siren has some very beautiful stars in her sky. Blonde stars with black eyes, red-haired stars with sparkling teeth, and dark stars with beautiful breasts. Each night, 3 by 3, alternating the color of their hair, these stars visit my siren. This makes for lots of comings and goings in the sky. But my siren's sky isn't an ordinary sky. My siren has 7 boats on her ocean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some with steam, the others with sails, some rapid, others slow, but all beautiful, all charming, with sailors who know their craft. My siren has soaps in all shapes and colors to wash her lovely skin. My siren has many soaps. One for her hands, another for her feet, one for yesterday, one for tomorrow, one for each eye. And that one for her scaly tail, and this other one for her hair, and another one for her belly, and another one for her back. My siren sings for no one but me. I tell my friends to listen to her in vain. No one ever hears her, except one, only one. But though his air is sincere, I mistrust him. He might be a liar.
Okay, yeah. I've managed to persuade Owen to read one as well. So we've got an uncle.
That's a rare treat.
Yeah.
Rare treat that I've written one. Shall I crack on?
Go for it, please do. Yeah.
Right. It's titled "Standing Water," but that's probably not going to stay. So, standing water. At the still, dark edge of the meadow's flooded corner, poised above a world inverted, the heron stalks itself through a pool of standing water. I have wanted my mind to be like this, still as settled water, clear as the heron's cut glass eye,
I have imagined transcendence as something to be searched for, the same way the heron scans the surface of the water, looking through the self it doesn't know it doesn't have. The body's movements reduced to a quiet minimum, the breath, the blood, the circuits of the nerves. But the heron says no, all his attention is now, strikes, feeds and flies away, taking only what it needs, what is necessary. Above the ruptured water, gnats fizz and ratchet the air. That's it.
That was great.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was wonderful. I had to get my piece of paper out to jot down the notes about it. It was cool. Yeah, just as we said before, it's a year since we left the Foxes, which was our home for 4 years, and we had a wonderful time there. And I was just going to finish off with this one that encapsulates sort of SpeakEasy and our time there. And when people say, "What happens at SpeakEasy?" You know, I say, "Well, sort of this really," and it is available in SpeakEasy issue number 4. Culture Press, Amazon, stuff like that. These walls have heard it all. 1. A new gaff, and it feels all right, yeah? It all starts with a bird in a nest, in a tree, in Carlisle. Poems must rhyme all the time, or so I'm told, including culinary tips for eating Allen Ginsberg. Everything must change, everything will change. See how I have secured it cleverly. Share the love of the landscape from the Lake District to the coast of the Solway. Hear the ballads of the border reavers. And of course, a rhyming poem about a horse called Orange. 2. Isolation is like being marooned on Christmas Island and you haven't got a present. Why do we crown the fools and make good men cry? They just elected a baboon to be president. Let's do the Fringe. I don't do poetry. Storytelling words spoken aloud. As dusk falls, astronomical dusk that is, travel through time, unravel the secrets of the universe, trip the light fantastic, discover other ways of being. Say the S word, and the word is SpeakEasy, and it was really good. And of course, a rhyming poem, I can't say the word rhyming, and of course, a rhyming poem about a steed called Satsuma. 3. Follow in the footsteps of others. My first memory of you is of you not being there. I'm not sure it was poetry, but it was definitely something. Who shot Mrs. Nosy Parker? A to-do list, an analogy, a poem about a witch recalled from memory, a poem about a firefighter shared from collective memories. Poetry for fun, poetry for therapy, poetry for school, poetry for me, poetry for you, poetry for us. Poetry for poetry, and poetry for good. At that watershed moment. Autonomous sensory meridian response. Thoughts hang in the air. Wooden beams highlighted by crepuscular rays. Acting out plays. From the mundane everyday to car journeys to outer space. Breakups and makeups. Hello, goodbye. Long time no see. Goodbye, hello. Please write to me. Sing your song, find your tune with ukulele, guitar, fiddle, keyboard, melodica, or even a cappella. Thoughts about a train and a tree. tributes to us and tributes to thee. And of course, a rhyming poem about an equine called Tangerine. 4. Join in with the snow leopard song and more haikus than you know what to do with. Find out if a bot can write speakeasy. I'm not sure that it can, it'll just get it wrong. You want a sonnet? We're on it. So you want to be a writer? Don't do it. Do you want it to be perfect, or do you want it today? The men and women in the smoky back room say yay or nay. Share the tales based on true life folk songs. Honest. Now why would I lie? Imagination runs wild and free. Let's hear it for the unloved. And to the 37%, fuck you. But no one really cares about your votes. Maybe you and me should visit Chicken Town on a pony called Tango. It all goes down at Speakeasy. Next time, baby, take notes. There you are. Yes. The wonderful Speakeasy issue 4. Right, so we've come to the end of another Speakeasy Online. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's have a round of applause. Everybody who...
How do you know when you finish?
How do we know when I've finished?
Yeah, just like your mum. Hey, it's time for bed.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Credits roll.
Yeah. The lights come up and everyone brushes the popcorn off.
Take down the scenery in the background.
Yeah.
I spent at least 2 hours. I spent at least 2 hours.
A narwhal joke there. I didn't see that.
I always remember, it reminds me of, you know, the young ones. I always remember an episode where Neil was watching the young ones. The telly had finished. And he turned to his and he said, you know when the telly finishes, man, it's when the little dot goes in the middle. And you know what the little dot means, man? It means no more telly.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Let's have a round of applause for everyone who read. And everybody who sang.
Yeah.
Everybody who listened. And everybody who left before the end.
Thank you.
And
one more for Phil for setting up this meeting.
Thank you. No, thank you all for tuning in, because it wouldn't be a thing without you guys. So
just you staring at your computer by yourself.
Yeah.
We don't have to go out next time.
I don't think
so. Oh
shit!
I don't know.
There's a thing.
Oh no.
Let's not. Let's keep it on Zoom for now.
Well, we'll probably do another one on Zoom. Yeah.
No, we go to a venue and watch it on Zoom.
We go to the venue.
Practicing social distancing for years.
Yeah.
I hear you have to pay for drinks out there.
What? That's a terrible idea.
It is a bad idea.
Oh, it's great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Well done, Phil, for organising it.
Thank you so much for such a lovely evening, guys. Enjoy.
It was lovely.
See you all again soon.
Yeah, see you soon. And get home safe.
Keep fighting.
No more telly.
No more telly.
Apart from the football.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
It's my monthly dose of unpredictability. It's very health inducing.
Yeah.
Keeps COVID at bay.
It's
I need to go water my plants. So good night, farewell. See you all soon.
See you all
Good night,
soon.
guys.
Take care of yourselves.
Take care.